This is the Sport Fiction Podcast. We discuss the world of sports at 13 PSI without a trash can in sight. If our answers frighten you, then you should cease asking scary questions. Sport fiction is a made-up piece of literature where a sport has a specific impact on the plot or the main characters. Let's see what these two characters will make up today. One is a sports analytics expert, and the other one, a sports agent. Here are your hosts, Noah and Jorge.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Sport Fiction Podcast. My name is Jorge.
I'm Noah.
And it's been quite a few weeks since we talked to you, but we're very glad to be back. This week we are sponsored by Sunbliss Natural Skincare. Sunbliss Natural, welcome to the world of nature-inspired beauty, where radiant skin meets the power of natural ingredients. It's done with organic ingredients, helping you stay radiant. You can visit them at sunblissnaturals.com. Right now they have a sale. You don't even need to do a promo code. So they applied already the promo to their complete kit. They have two lines of skincare, cleaning, premium skincare kit and products. And they're both 20% off already. So if you buy the whole skincare, whether it be regular skincare kit or premium kit, both 20% off. No code needed. sunblissnaturals.com. Well, no, we got a lot to talk about. I know it's been a while since we were able to chat. I'm just gonna get this right out of the way. We didn't talk yet about Jason Kelce.
You want me just to go there to start to get it out of the way?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, since we've last spoke, Jason officially hung him up in one of the most, I don't know how to even describe it. Probably one of the, I think it was like a 45-minute speech, essentially, press conference. Super classy, super impressive. Jason doesn't do it any other way. I think we all kind of knew it was coming. We got some false hope that maybe he would pick up, stick it out for one more year. But then when word got out that he was doing a press conference, I think it came out like that Sunday, that he was doing a press conference, and like Travis was in town, his whole family was in town. It was like, I think everyone knew what that was. But yeah, no, it was crazy. Like one of the most emotional press conferences you'll ever see. And it kind of like, I accepted it. I think, I mean, you knew that I accepted it when we were at the game watching it. It is very cool that we were at his last game. The only thing I regret about that last game, besides the fact that it was just embarrassing, was that I didn't stay to try and like see if I could like shake his hand or something, because we were close enough to potentially be able to do that. As you said, he definitely heard me. I know he heard me. He turned around once, but it would have been pretty cool. But yeah, man, I mean, it's rough. Jason Kelce's been on the team for 13 years. It's hard to remember Eagles games without him. But what I think is so cool about this, and a lot of it is definitely inflated because, Travis is dating the biggest star in the world. But it's just crazy to see, like, I mean, the Cleveland Cavaliers had like a bobblehead night of the Kelce brothers, like congratulating him on his retirement. I mean, I know that they're from the area, so but it's just like, they don't play basketball. And so it's like, he's just universally loved. Like even Cowboys fans don't have negative things to say about Jason Kelce, which is like, we don't really agree on anything. And it's wild. It was wild to kind of see it. I mean, I've always felt this way about Jason. Jason, it's funny. He said he felt like he was getting overrated at the end of the year, at the end of his career. He really wasn't. He's just a modest person. He was still unquestionably a top 5 center in the league, arguably still the best. I don't think anyone would have him ranked lower. But yeah, no, it was kind of crazy. This was going to be one of my strikes, but I really wanted to read. I don't think people really truly understand how good Jason Kelce is. Like, there is a legitimate chance he is the greatest center of all time. And that's not hyperbole. Like, that is almost universally agreed upon by a lot of people, especially when you put the longevity in how long he's been playing for. This guy, Paul Hembo, who some people probably know, put out this like amazing tweet. It's called Jason Kelce was the center. And like, it's just kind of perfect. And I just wanted to read it to kind of, it shows you, it kind of explains the impact Jason Kelce had. So I'm just going to read this real quick and then I won't cry. I'll read one other thing and then I'm going to move on. Okay. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2011, LaShawn McCoy rushed for 17 touchdowns, the most in Eagles history at the time. Jason Kelce was the center. 2011. Okay. 2013, the Eagles averaged 160.4 rush yards per game, most since 1950 at the time. Jason Kelce was the center. Also in 2013, LaShawn McCoy rushed for 1,607 yards, most in Eagles history. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2013 was a good year. Nick Foles had a 27-2 touchdown interception ratio, best in Eagles history, second best all time. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2014, the Eagles averaged 29.6 points per game, most since 1949 in the NFL. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2017, Carson Wentz threw for 33 touchdowns, most in Eagles history. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2017, the Eagles scored 41 points and gained 538 yards in the Super Bowl in that crazy win over the Patriots. Obviously, Jason Kelce was the center. In 2019, Carson Wentz passed for 4,039 yards, most in Eagles history. Jason Kelce was the center. 2021, Eagles rushed for 2,715 yards, most in franchise history. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2022, the Eagles scored 422 points, most in franchise history. Jason Kelce was the center. In 2022, the Eagles rushed for 32 touchdowns, most in franchise history. Jason Kelce was the center. 2023, Jalen Hurts rushed for 15 touchdowns, tied for the most for a quarterback in a single season in NFL history. Jason Kelce was the center. They led the league in third down conversion rate throughout the entirety of his career. They led the league in fourth down conversion rate throughout the entirety of his career. They also are notorious for being the best team to go for it on fourth and inches and are the most successful team in the league at QB sneaks in the history of the league throughout the duration of Jason Kelce's career. It's not hyperbole. There's a reason why they're so good at it. And this was even before they started doing the tush push. This was good with throughout the entirety of his career. Jason Kelce's a big reason why. Then only 4 players in NFL history have ended their careers with 3 first-team All-Pros and 3 Pro Bowl selections in their final 3 seasons. Don Hudson, Jim Brown, Dwight Stevenson, and Jason Kelce. And most people probably don't even know who those first 3 people are. So like they played a long time ago. So to put it in perspective, how good and how long Jason Kelce played for, like starting in 2011, to finishing his career with 3 straight All-Pro appearances, still going out arguably at the best at his position. And everyone probably could say he could easily play another year if he wanted to. It's pretty amazing. And it puts in perspective all the different quarterbacks he played with. This guy played with Michael Vick. This guy played with Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, Sam Bradford, Vince Young, Kevin Cobb, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, and literally all of them, their best statistical seasons were with Jason Kelce as the center. He was so important to this team for obvious reasons. The Eagles plan for this. Cam Jurgens is going to switch over to center, and hopefully he is half the player Jason Kelce can be. But this guy is a no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. Probably, and this isn't forget I'm an Eagles fan. Probably the greatest center to ever play that position of all time. I mean, can most average fans even name like 4 other centers? Like, can you name 4 other centers like ever? So like, the fact that he's like a household name. Again, I know there's other reasons there. It's just pretty mind blowing. And it's sad, and the Eagles are going to struggle without him. Now, Howie Roseman did his thing, and the Eagles should probably be pretty good again next year. But it's a shame he's not going to be a part of it. It was sad. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't cry a little bit, which I've never cried over anyone retiring or anything like that. But it's pretty incredible. I'm so happy that everyone's universally celebrating him, and we don't have to talk about it anymore. But it was just something I had to do since it was official. Yeah, I don't know. I probably talked for way too long there, but yeah, that's all I got. What do you think?
Well, after hearing all that, what does that mean for the Eagles going forward? Because if they get a player that's half as good as him, that's still, I mean, it's not gonna have the impact that he had, right? Nowhere near close. So what do we have to look forward to now?
Well, there'll definitely be an adjustment period. The good news is, like I said, the Eagles did prepare for this. But we haven't really seen anyone. And the other thing I didn't even mention is Jason Kelce only missed like one. Like he finished his career with like 600 consecutive games. I don't know the exact number. It's not that high. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like he missed like one season essentially throughout his entire career. So like we really haven't seen many other people snap the ball in general besides Jason Kelce. It's going to be an adjustment, and I'd be lying to you if I said I honestly think the Eagles are gonna. There's going to be some growing pains early. I think people don't realize a center is in charge of like kind of shifting the offensive line under like kind of like it's not just the quarterback. Like yes, the
Right.
quarterback's
Yeah,
got
he's orchestrating the entire offense, really.
right, and so it's going to be the first time in 13 years that voice is not going to be Jason Kelce guiding that. There's going to be growing pains for sure. It helps that Lane Johnson's still there. It helps that Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson are all both all pro caliber players, and obviously Lane Johnson's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So the Eagles' offensive line still should be pretty good, but now they have questions at center and right guard. I don't know who their right guard is going to be next year. Could it be Tyler Steen? Could it be a guy that they haven't drafted yet? Could it be a guy that's not on the roster yet? Um, I have Jurgens is going to move over to center. I think that they made that pretty clear. But yeah, it's going to be an adjustment, and it's going to be again another new thing with Jalen Hurts learning a new system.
Right.
Now, not only to learn a new system, he's got a new person he's going to directly snap the ball. And people they kind of joked about it on his podcast when Hurts came on. He like Jason Kelce snaps the ball pretty uniquely compared to other centers traditionally. He snaps it harder, slightly different spin variations here and there. So it's going to be an adjustment. But we'll see. I'd be lying to you if I said I'm confident that we'll be as good without him, but I'm hoping that they can overcome some things. And Stoutland's still there, and I know Jason's still going to show up and help out whenever he can. And you know, never say never, but I do think he's done. But no, we'll see. It's concerning. It's the Eagles have had a hell of an offseason, and we'll get more into it. They really have put themselves back in a position to be one of the top Super Bowl contenders again. But that's a big question mark, and it's almost as big of an impact as like teams losing a quarterback and transitioning. That he really made that big of an impact. So we'll see. It's a giant unknown, but hopefully we got the right coaching staff in place. And yeah, and the only good news that came out of it is it opened up between him and that's the other thing too. I feel bad. I'm not like hitting on Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox also retired, and Fletcher Cox probably isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's close. He's definitely going to get his number retired and go to the Eagles Hall of Fame. But he was, just as dominant for almost as long as Kelce was. So you lose two big guys like that up the middle. Fletcher plays defensive tackle. Would normally be going up against Jason Kelce. So it's going to be different. They're going to look different. But the biggest thing, my biggest concern is like leadership's now changing. You lost two of your biggest veterans, the biggest clubhouse culture presence in the locker room. It's going to change, and we need younger guys to step up. We need AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, and the next, hopefully Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis take that next step, and we'll see. It's my biggest concern going into the season. That and Nick Sirianni's still the head coach.
considering how they performed the second half of the season, I mean, this could be good. Um, Something had to change, whether that was to go back to doing things right like they did the first half of the season. Although there were some inconsistencies back then too. Like you said, at one point they were the worst 10-1 team in the league or something like that. So,
I mean, they kept winning these games they had no business winning.
yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe now that change has to be made and they have to adapt. Um, they could potentially find a new groove, and find new ways to win, new ways to play. They have some new meat in the locker room now, with the backup that I don't think you're too happy about. Tell me about that.
yeah, I don't fully understand the whole Kenny Pickett. I mean, I understand it. He's a cheap backup that you can hopefully develop. Because this is like the first year Jalen Hurts' real money kicks in. So it's kind of hard to justify paying a guy like Marcus Mariota, who got like what, $8 million to go back up. That's just what the rates are for quarterbacks now. So they
Can
went
you
the cheap route.
develop? Can you develop a player that's already played up, essentially a season in the league?
Yeah,
Is
I think
that
it's going to be a good reset for Pickett. I think for sure. I mean, my biggest concern is I just don't think Pickett's that good.
yeah?
I hope I'm wrong. He definitely wasn't overly set up to succeed with like obviously the Matt Canada offenses. I don't need to tell you about it. Um, but yeah, no, it wouldn't have been my first choice. I was kind of surprised to see it. It didn't really cost them that much. Essentially, it was just swapping a third round pick for a fourth round pick. Um, for a cheap backup for 2 years that hopefully he doesn't have to play at all.
What
um,
about what about Barkley coming in? How is that going to help?
Now that's pretty cool. So Barkley coming in, I think, is such a big pickup, and the reason why it actually made more sense, like because historically the Eagles just don't pay running backs, like that's just their thing. Like they did give LaShawn McCoy a contract, but outside of that, they just never really pay running backs for multiple years. That's why you see turnovers. Miles Sanders is gone. That's why DeAndre Swift was gone. But the reason why Barkley made so much sense is, I mean, one, he's a Pennsylvania guy, so he's like a Pennsylvania legend. Grew up in Copley, Pennsylvania. Um, so he always kind of wanted to come back. But two, he just does so many things at an elite level that the Eagles can kind of help with the loss of Kelce. And what I mean by like people don't realize Saquon Barkley might be the best pass blocking running back in the league. And that skill set is so valuable, especially when you have a young quarterback and now a young center who there might be some mix-ups picking up the blitz or picking up some. I mean, there was no even with Jason Kelce last year, the Eagles got rocked at the second half of the season when teams just started blitzing. I mean, 49ers kept coming and the Eagles had no answer, and then every other team just kept doing it, and the Eagles couldn't respond to it. Um, Saquon Barkley will help that. Um, yes, he's not going to be running a route if you keep him in, and obviously you want, everyone thinks Saquon's a big playmaker, but like that's such a big part of the offense that really hurt them last year because Swift's not really very good at it,
Right.
and Gainwell is not very good at it. So it was kind of one of those things where Jalen had to bail or just try to play hero ball, which isn't so. So I love the Barkley signing. I mean, he's obviously the best running back. I still think people maybe it was overpaying for a running back, but fortunately, Howie Roseman is just the best in the league, and I'll get to that in a minute. But he restructured that cap. It's really not that bad of a hit, and I'll put it in perspective eventually. But the fact that he's a true three down back, the fact that he is the best pure runner in the league, and now by the way, now you got Saquon Barkley that you might have to be guarding against in short yardage situations with Jalen Hurts in the backfield. I mean, that is so much power in the backfield. It's going to be a nightmare to stop. I don't think the tush push is going anywhere. In fact, I even saw a comment Saquon saying that he wants to get reps at the tush push to start saving Jalen Hurts from taking all these hits. I wouldn't be surprised if you see some unique packages there. But yeah, I mean that you get a guy like that. It was kind of the only thing missing on the off. And this is no disrespect to Swift. Swift is a stud. He's going to have a monster season with the Bears, especially because they're going to draft a quarterback and they're going to have to funnel targets to their running backs. So DeAndre Swift is a stud. This is no disrespect. It's just you have an opportunity to get one of the best in the league. And make no mistake about it. Sure, there's some injury concerns and there's some, questions there, but there was some health concerns with Christian McCaffrey with the Panthers. And look what he did as soon as he went to the 49ers, completely changed the outlook of that team. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a similar impact. Um, I'm not saying he's better than Christian McCaffrey, but I think they're pretty close. So I'm excited for it. I love it. I didn't fully expect it to happen. Um, and then rumors started swirling that both had interest, and I'm glad it got done. I think it's going to help a lot. That's very normally I don't love the running back free agent signings, and as you can see, which we'll get to eventually, the running back carousels. I mean, like almost every running back changed teams this offseason. Um, but yeah, no, I think that's a very exciting pickup for the Eagles for sure.
From retirement to off-season signings on your side, and then the lack of any activity. Actually, all they did was lose players. The Cowboys had a terrible offseason so far. What is your too early to tell prediction for the NFC East this year?
I mean, right now, the Eagles are clearly the best team, in my opinion. They're clearly the best team. I don't even know if I think the Giants are going to just tank. Like they should. Like I don't like I don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. I'm not sold that it's going to be Daniel Jones. We'll find out. Um, Washington's made some very weird moves, like signing Zach Ertz and like Marcus Mariota. This might have been good 4 years ago, but I'm not really sure what they're doing right now. Um, and also, I don't understand why they gave up on Sam Howell so quickly. I know they're going to draft the quarterback, like they have the second pick. But Sam Howell did a lot of things that were better than people expected on a team that just flat out sucked. So I'm kind of surprised they cut bait on that. But I know they're going to draft the quarterback because they have the second pick in the draft, which will probably be Jaden Daniels. But again, rookie quarterback, you're not going to expect anything from Washington this year. And I don't understand what the Cowboys are doing. Now, Jerry doesn't always make a big splash the first wave of free agency, but I don't understand how you can just see the Eagles sign player after player and just not have any sort of response to that. And they didn't even pay Dak yet, which is weird. Like,
Right.
so it's like the one thing if they were like saving money for like certain, like they think what the only thing they did is brought Eric Kendricks in, who is a past his prime linebacker who's still pretty good, but like it's not moving the needle for you. Van Der Esch retired. Um, I don't know. I'm happy that they're stagnant. I don't get it, and I'm sure that we'll see some moves coming soon. And obviously, the draft still hasn't happened yet, but I don't know, man. And I forget my Eagles fandom aside. I just don't know how you can look in the division and see what they've done, especially with like all the new coaching hires that they did. And it's like I do like the Mike Zimmer hire. I think like the Cowboys losing Dan Quinn and replacing him with Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator. I think that was a good hire. So I don't think they're losing much there, but I don't get it. Like, what's Jerry waiting for? What are you waiting for? It's not like maybe some free agents will fall into their lap. Maybe they're hoping teams are going to have to like cut bait on players as salary cap situations get worse and worse, but I don't really get it. I would be super aggressive because they have a window here, which they need to be all in for the Super Bowl now, and they have done nothing. So
Yeah, they
I
think
don't
in
know.
the draft they're gonna go with the offensive line.
Yeah, they lost Smith. He's gone.
Yeah, they
Uh,
just they keep losing players. That's all they did. How are you? I mean, I guess you sound like you think Daniels should go before McCarthy, and I don't know why why that?
well, I don't know if he should. I haven't really done a ton of digging yet. I'm essentially reading the room here, and here's like they signed Marcus Mariota to be their backup, right? And they made that clear. He's their backup. Maybe
Yes.
he'll play a couple of games as like a bridge quarterback, but he's their backup. When you see a guy like that and you go, okay, we're going to draft a quarterback, you normally want to have a backup with like a similar skill set to like maximize the rookie quarterback here. The guy who's got the most similar skill set to Marcus Mariota is Jaden Daniels. Pretty fast, pretty quick. He's got a better arm than Mariota. My concern with him is his, consistency, accuracy, going through progressions, reading a field. He's like far from a polished, sure thing prospect, but he's definitely got a lot of upside for sure. I mean, if Anthony Richardson went in the top, was the top quarterback taken, now he's a little bit more of a freak athlete, but very kind of a similar skill set there. So that's why I think they're going to take Jaden Daniels. I don't think I would personally. I think I like Drake May and McCarthy both better than Jaden Daniels, just in terms of like a pure quarterback, make the throws, go through progressions, really good pocket awareness. I think the biggest question mark with McCarthy is he just never got asked to do anything because, I mean, Michigan might have had one of the best offensive lines in like the history of college football and like a stable of sick running backs and unreal defense. So they just kind of beat the shit out of teams and just ran the ball a lot. So like that's not anyone's fault. It's not like a fault on his own, but it's just like, Joe Burrow was a lot further advanced as a passer. Like, you see like these like guys that like have a lot of success in college where it's like even the national championship game, McCarthy threw like the ball like what, 16 times? like like so I mean again, you don't want to hold that against people, and that can actually just be a really good opportunity. And I do think we're going to see 4 quarterbacks go very high, potentially 5. Michael Penix too. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into the first round. He's got a similar skill set to like a lot of like the Lamar Jacksons of the world. Who, I mean, he's not Lamar, like he's not as fast, but like, and there's some more injury risk there. So he's probably a better second round pick, but that's just not how the draft works. I mean, it's very rare that quarterbacks go where they should. They all go earlier.
Yeah.
And there's so many teams that are desperate. So I think
Like
you're going to see.
England. Is New England, I mean, are they really going to go down that road again and pick another quarterback and try and make it work? Is it going to be a number 1 they're picking now?
Probably. I mean, I'm shocked that they didn't. We'll get to that, but like the whole Justin Fields trade thing, like I don't get it at all. I wouldn't be surprised if New England kind of. So like, I mean, I know they actually don't. They actually like Zappy, and Zappy actually does some things that are like not that bad. But he kind of he's more of like a backup profile. But he's kind of similar to Gardner Minshew a little bit, where he'll kind of settle in and not fearless and make any throw. He just doesn't have like the strongest arm. He's not the biggest guy. He's more suited to be a backup. But yeah, I mean, I think Drake May makes a lot of sense for New England. Kid from North Carolina, smart kid, pretty athletic, can develop. But honestly, I mean, you don't want the concerning thing about any of these guys is like they're going to these shit teams.
Right.
And, they already ruined Mac Jones. So it's like, and I'm not even saying Mac Jones is all that great. But and that could be the same thing with Kenny Pickett. Like, I mean, a lot of these guys, it's circumstance, right? Like I said this a while now. Like, how different would the careers of Sam Darnold and Patrick Mahomes be if Patrick Mahomes got picked to the Jets and had to play right away behind the worst offensive line in the league and just got pummeled? Or Sam Darnold got to go to the Chiefs and sit behind Alex Smith for a year and learn behind Andy Reid and be set up for success with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all these guys. Like, you just don't know. So like right now, I think New England is the worst place to go for a young quarterback. In fact, it would be almost like malpractice to put a rookie quarterback in there.
I'm surprised to see May being ranked so high, though. I get it. He's got the tools and the potential, but I mean, he's got 2 years under his belt. That's it in college. So
the Drake May concern is similar to the Mitch Trubisky concern, in my opinion, where they kind of have similar skill sets. May's got a better arm, in my opinion, is much better at like his pocket awareness is actually pretty good. And like to me, and I guess what I should mean by pocket awareness is there. You got to play quarterback. You got to know how to manipulate the pocket and feel pressure even without necessarily seeing it. And that's why like being fast and be able to run away from stuff and create is awesome. But like there's a reason why Tom Brady and Peyton Manning dominated the NFL for so long as arguably like the most pocket passers you could potentially get. They're not running, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They're staying in the pocket. Um, and the reason for that is because like their awareness of like where everyone is, what's happening within the pocket at all times, when to move up, when to bail, when to get out, and where to like kind of give yourself more time and to stand in the pocket and to know you're going to get hit and deliver a throw, which is dangerous. but but they were the best in the world at that. And Drake May actually shows some really good signs there, which is why I'm a little bit more optimistic than some people. But yeah, he's only been the starting quarterback for really 2 years, 3 years, maybe 2 years. Um, and he's got a lot of football that he's got to learn, and he can only learn by reps. And the NFL speed is obviously faster, and like that was the Trubisky concern, right? And as we can all see, Trubisky is now I just signed with the Bills as a backup, and he probably will never be a true starter. I'm not saying that's going to be the case for Drake May. Everyone's completely different. They went to the same school, so I don't want people to be like, "Oh, he's a North Carolina guy. He's a flop because of that." Um,
They're all
which is
flops.
hard to do. It's hard to do. I mean, I get it, but yeah, no, it's interesting. Quarterback. I also think personally that like teams have like no idea how to really, like what actually makes quarterbacks tick. I mean, like if they did, Brock Purdy wouldn't have gone as the last pick in the draft. Um, People wouldn't be overdrafted. Malik Willis, like those guys, wouldn't be overdrafted. You like dream on upside, um, and it's obviously not always the case. But Caleb Williams is going to go 1-1. He's going to go to the Bears, and the Bears have actually done a really good job of actually setting him up to succeed, which is kind of funny because it's like they never did that for Justin Fields.
Right.
So I I would love to live in a world where we see what Caleb Williams does next year with the Bears at this setup, and I would love to know what Justin Fields would have been able to do with the same setup. I don't know if they probably made the right decision, but what they traded him for, I wouldn't have done that. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, that's my spiel on quarterbacks. And like then there's a reason why like guys like Joe Burrow, in my opinion, like I think Joe Burrow is so good because his pocket awareness is like the best I've seen since like Tom Brady coming out. It's and that's how you maximize everything, right? Um, so yeah, that'll be exciting though. We're getting close to the draft time, and then we're gonna have to do. Maybe I'll get one of my buddies on who's like really big into the draft, and he can
I,
explain things even.
I think wherever Penix goes is going to be too high, my opinion.
Probably, especially because he's older too. Penix is like what 26, he might be 27 by the time the season starts. Um, but like I said, teams are
Look,
desperate.
30. He's what? How many? He's got like 13 years of eligibility over there. So no, but I don't know. I just feel like a little too late, too little, too late for me. What I saw from him this year, and when it counted, I didn't like what I saw, but what I saw this year wasn't necessarily the same as you see, 3 years of his career. So I don't know.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Well, cool. All right, man. Let's do this. Let's shift it to baseball because baseball season has already started,
Yep.
right?
Today.
Very, very
Sorry.
far away, but I was on a Zoom this morning, totally forgot what time the game was on, and I caught the last half of it. So at least I was able to see some of the fireworks um, at the end of the game. But we had Glass now starting now for a new team. That was pretty cool to see. And then you
Look
had you
pretty good.
Darvish going. You Darvish only went a couple of innings, so I was
Yeah.
surprised that that was the case. I don't know how up to speed he was with spring training and this game being so early, but I expect a little bit more out of that. What are you looking forward to seeing on opening day next week?
Uh, Next, yeah, I mean, Phillies Brave series is pretty cool. It's a good way to go right into the fire there. Um, I'm just excited. I mean, I'm taking the whole day off work. Um, I'm just gonna watch it, watch everything. But no, there's a lot. I'm excited to see the young kids. Like, I mean, Jackson Merrill made the team for the Padres, and made his debut in center field. I'm pretty sure Jackson Holiday is going to be make the team for Baltimore. Don't know why they haven't announced that officially yet. He is clearly one of their best players. Um, and they already called them up, so there's no service time manipulation there. I don't really understand what we're waiting for here. Um, I'm also kind of excited to see. I mean, obviously, Otani, blah 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 blah, whatever. Um, but I'm also excited to see like you got the Rays coming in with Zach Eflin as their opening day starter, which is like pretty good cool for him, honestly. But I want to see, the Rays came out and they were arguably the best. It was the best start to like any team had in like any season ever. Um, and I think I told you my theory behind that is because the spring training was there last year. I really think
Right.
that
Yeah.
benefited. And I'm interested to see if it's the complete opposite that happens this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they get off to a slow start this year. And if that's the case, I'm not saying that's the sole reason why teams are different year to year, but I think I can put more validity into why I think they got off such a good start last year. Um, so I'm interested. I'm looking for that. I'm also kind of interested to see like some teams who are like, are the Giants going to be really good? They they've made a lot of moves this offseason, including finally signing like someone finally signed Blake Snell. We can finally stop talking about that. I can stop bitching about that. Um, but it's not just Snell. They signed Solaire. They got that the I think kid from Korea. Blanking on his name right now, and I don't want to get yelled at. So, but he's going to be like their opening day, I think, center fielder. Um, they made a lot of interesting moves that Matt Chapman obviously they kind of took advantage of the Boris clients in my opinion of we're not going to pay you that much for that long but we'll pay you for that much for a year with a bunch of opt-outs.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see what the Pirates do. I know that sounds weird. The Pirates, everyone expects them to suck, and I'm disappointed Paul Skeens isn't going to make the team initially, but I get it. But O'Neal Cruz is healthy again. I think people forget how exciting O'Neal Cruz can be. There's not many 6'8" athletic freaks like that. um, so excited there, and also Cabrian Hayes kind of completely redid his swing this year. And I think as of today, March 20th, I don't know what he did in the game today. He's only struck out once the entire time in spring training. Like that's in modern baseball. That just never happens. So it's exciting to see teams like that. I think the Reds are ready to take that next step. Um, Obviously, the Braves are a super team. Philly should be really, really good. I mean, it sucks, but I am interested to see Juan Soto in a Yankee uniform. I think he's gonna be.
Yeah.
He's my MVP pick this year. I think he's gonna have that big of a year. I really do. Um, I guess I shouldn't give my. I think we should before the season starts. We should give our official picks. We should do that next week. Uh,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I do that every year anyway, so why not? And I also think that this might be the year the Angels finally trade Mike Trout. I really do.
Trade
Um,
him? You can't do that.
Mid-season. That's my other bold prediction. I think they're gonna fall out of it. I think that
Fall
the
out of
opportunity.
what? Have they ever been in it?
Right. That's and I do think he's finally at that point. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know him, so I don't know, but like the opportunity's there. The Phillies need a center fielder. like um or a left fielder and move Marsh to center or Rojas or whoever. It doesn't matter. The opportunity's there. Um, I yeah, I do. I really think that it makes sense. He should get traded, and the Angels should trade him. Like they should have done it 3 years ago, and they actually could have gotten anything they wanted for him. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to see the Mariners pitching staff. They got some of the best young pitcher staff in the world, and Luis Castillo, who, in my opinion, is the most underrated ace in baseball.
Well, okay.
Uh, he's so good. I
He
mean,
was making
I'm
$24 million this year.
yeah, which is good, but he's going to make over 40 on the open market if he
Yeah.
if he keeps. I mean, he has one of the best right-handed changeups I've ever seen, and just a funny guy. I met him when I was with the Reds a couple years ago, and he's a good dude. I'm happy for him. Um, Blue Jays should be able to swing it. I feel bad for the Red Sox. Giolito blowing out his arm. Also sucks for my fantasy team, but uh,
I don't
yeah,
understand the hype for the Blue Jays. I still don't get it.
they just have exciting young players. The Blue Jays they're banking on their young pitchers like Ricky
Yeah.
Tiedemann.
They're overpaid
Like
pitchers, in my opinion.
yeah, Barrios needs to continue to prove that he is worth it.
Yeah, the Blue Jays have 3 pitchers in the top 20 in pay. Where's Glass now? Did Glass now rework his contract? Because I don't even see him
Yeah,
in the
it's not
top.
that bad. It's not that crazy, honestly. It's a pretty fair deal. And he looked great. Glass now looked really well. Yeah, and I think to go back to what you said with Yu Darvish, I think he threw like 70, 75 pitches. He just he walked a lot of guys. He didn't have his command wasn't working today. Um, so I think they're not going to extend nobody's going to extend anyone probably the first couple of times through the rotation anyway. So um, yeah, I wasn't overly surprised that Darvish got yanked early when I think he had like 4 walks, which
Yeah.
you know he'll cut that down eventually. But
And
it's exciting.
one thing I saw with Darvish, even when he was in Texas and came to the States, when he starts going downhill, he doesn't recover. Like
Yeah,
he'll either continue going downhill, and that's what happened. He would be dominant for 6 innings, and then the 7th inning it all falls apart. So he never could just get out of those situations and bounce back. So yeah, if
get
he's
out of
walking
the way.
3, 4 people in the first 2 innings, you got to keep an eye and short leash on him.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. I mentioned to see Yamamoto throw. Um, not to typecast people, but like you know, the Dodgers gave him a lot of money. I think he's got the highest average annual salary in the league this year, like
Oh yeah.
Yamamoto, I'm pretty sure. Um, and I'm not saying I don't expect him to be good. I do, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some growing pains there. I mean, one, this is the best hitters he's ever going to face in his life, so there's gonna be some learning curve there. I mean, it's going to be some adjustment, you would think. Um, but yeah, no, it'll be interesting. Like, I agree with you on Darvish, and I want to see how Yamamoto responds when things don't go well. Um, that makes sense. Um,
It's funny, the top 6 paid pitchers in the league are not even playing opening day.
well, probably how many of them are hurt?
Yeah, Verlander, Scherzer, and DeGrom. That's $83 million between Scherzer and DeGrom. The Rangers are sitting on the bench, and then Garrett Cole's hurt, and then you got Corbin and Strasburg for the Nationals,
Yeah.
$70 million almost. That's terrible.
Well, and that's the reason why I always say this. I just don't believe in paying pitchers that long. I mean, I'm okay with the Aaron Nola deal, but like I guarantee you that he's going to miss time at some point throughout that 7-year deal.
Yeah.
So you just gotta hope that you win a World Series in that time frame, to make it to justify it. But yeah, man, my philosophy, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast or not, but like I am always going to be hesitant to pay pitchers. I mean, it's a necessary evil, but all of them, literally all of them, are ticking time bombs. And it's not just once. Like there's multiple guys that've had multiple Tommy John surgeries, shoulder injuries. Like there's a lot that goes into it. Throwing a baseball is one of the worst things you can do from the human body perspective. Um, and throwing a baseball at 100 miles an hour over and over again is even worse. So yeah, that's why. I mean, they're saying the Yankees are optimistic that Cole doesn't need Tommy John surgery, and they did. They were able to get away with it. Tanaka didn't have to get Tommy John surgery. Maybe they can figure it out. I don't think they'll be able to. Like, I think it's inevitable. It's the same way I felt with Andrew Painter in the Phillies last year. You got guys throwing 100. If something's wrong with the elbow, it's not going to get fixed. You got to fix it. Um, but yeah, I mean, all these pitchers, man. I mean, look at the Rays. I mean, the Rays went from team with like the most pitching depth, elite pitching in the league to
Right.
like they have zero depth this year, which is a big concern. I don't really understand. I still think they've got to make a trade. I say have too many position players
Right.
and they have a need for pitching. Now I know a lot of them are going to come back and eventually you'll have a surplus, but there's no such thing as too much pitching.
And they got
Uh,
good trading chips. I mean, they got a lot of talent in the minor leagues right now. So
so yeah, there's a match there. So I don't know, we'll see. But like, look at the teams like the Marlins. They built through like their rotation, even like their young guys, and now like 3 of their projected starting 5 are all potentially going to miss potentially the season, but at least the first couple of weeks.
yeah.
Like, um, building around pitching is bold. It can work. It can work for sure, but
Who do you think makes the most money per pitch? Let's see if you can get this one. The
most money
most money per pitch right now.
DeGrom because he's not throwing anything.
Nope. Well, true. I mean, but let's pretend
No,
they're
I know.
pitching, but
Uh, per pitch.
blow the horns. How does it blow the trumpets or whatever? Play the trumpets.
Edwin Diaz?
Yup, that dude's making $21 million a year.
And how many innings did he pitch last year?
I mean, well, last year he was gone because he got hurt at the World Baseball Classic, but he's back this year. And with how many games the Mets will be leading in the ninth inning, I would suspect he'd probably play in 50 games, maybe 40. If that, I don't know.
It's like, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, closers. Yeah, that's also partially part of the reason why teams will do like a closer by committee type thing
Yeah.
because they don't want to pay $20 million a year for a closer where it's like I might need you in the sixth or seventh inning or maybe even both, but like they're trying to keep the salary numbers down, but modern baseball's kind of catching up. It doesn't really matter. You can call me a closer, you can call me not a closer. They're still going to start getting paid. Although an arbitration hasn't caught up, which is kind of interesting. But teams and agents and free agency has caught up.
I wonder if the Mets would have dumped him in his contract last year like they did with the other pitchers. So
Try.
when they burned the barn down.
I
All
wouldn't be
right.
surprised if they try this year if they fall out of it.
We'll see. So, all right, let's switch it up. Let's talk about March Madness. I'm not really paying too much attention to what's going on,
Yeah.
but I think as a whole, man, the tournament itself is pretty fun because it doesn't matter who's playing. Some of these games can be really interesting. You could throw in your probably 4 to 5 Cinderellas every year that are going to come out and cause some havoc. So it's fun to watch the tournament, fun to follow it. But who do you have from the top 4 seeds that you think can make it to the end?
Yeah, I don't even know who the top 4 seeds are. No. I mean, actually, I want to let's see. What does the bracket look like? I filled out one bracket for work. I want to tell you who I ended up picking. I don't did I ever tell you the story how I came in third one year by picking every game by flipping a coin?
Uh-uh.
So I did you had to win twice for the underdogs
Yeah.
and just once for the favorite team. And I came in third place out of like 40 people. I thought that was so funny.
There was that one year that girl won the whole thing because she was just picking by colors of
Yeah.
their uniforms or something. It was funny. So we got Purdue, North Carolina, Houston, who lost. None of these teams, I don't think, won their league, right?
No, I don't think so.
And
Houston should be pretty.
UConn.
I do have my low key. I have my winner, and this is I'm a little cheating here, but like at our company, Sports Info Solutions, we do a lot of college basketball work, and our numbers love Marquette.
Oh yeah.
Marquette, love Marquette. So little inside info there. Now it doesn't mean shit.
I mean,
But
it's not that far fetched. It's the ranked number 2 in their bracket. So they had a solid year.
yeah,
They don't have I mean, outside of Kentucky, it's not that hard of a path to get to Houston, and Houston vulnerable. They're just like, I don't know.
so I think that would be my pick based on my basketball expertise that my colleagues have. It
All
would
right.
be Marquette.
All right, that's fair. I'm just gonna be a homer and go with my team, UConn. The Huskies are
Okay.
gonna bring it home. So
Well, they're the one seed, like the true one seed, right? So I mean, I think they are the favorite.
yeah, I would have picked them if they were number 5 seed. So we're good.
Yeah,
We're good. Well,
it's
we'll
funny.
see.
I'll probably watch some games for sure. But like to me, like it's like it's happening right when baseball season's like about to be starting. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like it's bad timing for me. Like this should happen like 2 weeks ago.
I
And
think I think the first weekend is the funnest because you have the most unknowns, and the most games at the same time. So when you're watching, you tune into. I hope they're all like on some of the same networks. You don't have to flip between True TV and crap like that. But when you have it all on CBS and they're highlighting the end of the games, you get to watch a lot of ends of good games. That's always fun. Once
it's
you
fun
get to the
for
Sweet 16, it becomes more important. But by that time, we got opening week. So
right.
baseball, yeah, baseball's going to
I'll,
trump
I'll,
those
I'll be
games.
the first one to admit, man. I'll watch this until baseball season starts, and I promise you, I'm watching. It's sad. It's just how I'm wired. Um, but I will say some of my most fun memories when I was living in Pennsylvania, we had this ridiculous setup. We had our main TV. We had so we always had two TVs in the living room. So we had two TVs set up. Then I brought down my TV from my room. So we had three TVs. My buddy mounted his TV that he would bring down from his room. And so we ended up having three TVs permanently downstairs. And then he would have his laptop that we would put on like in front of this like little, I guess, desk, for lack of a better word. It was an entertainment stand, but it was really just a desk. Um, and I would put my laptop up. So we would have like six screens up at one time. And that was fun. Like that was a lot of fun. Just kind of like sit around, do nothing, and just enjoy that. Maybe consume a few adult beverages. Um, you know. But so I have a lot of good memories of March Madness. But yeah, I got to get better into like liking basketball and like looking more into it. But it's just really a timing thing for me. It's like I got baseball to worry about at this point.
I remember this is a terrible memory of March Madness, but one year I was working for a company that went out of business, and it was, I think, noon. We were coming back from lunch and received notice that the company was shutting its doors. You have 2 hours to grab all your shit and go. And so what we all did, we didn't want to go home yet, right? So we packed up our shit and we all went to the bar and with our boxes in the car and watched the beginning of March Madness. And so we ended up staying there all night. But that was fun. All right,
That's
we're
not
gonna
bad.
move into our strikes. We're gonna start with my strike one because we touched a little bit about baseball starting today. Opening day overseas, about a week ahead of opening day in the US. We also have, I don't know what they call it. The Phillies and Mets, right, are going to play in England across the
Yeah,
pond. We
yeah.
also had spring training games happen in the Dominican Republic where the Rays were playing a Dominican team and things like that. So that was kind of fun. But what is Major League trying to do with especially the games that mean stuff to be played in other countries?
Well, growing the brand globally is always going to be you know, the main motivator. More global brand, more people watching it across the world, the more money that they can make.
But
Um,
is it though? Is it maybe I get England, but Korea, like let's be honest, baseball is top sport there, right? Baseball in Japan, like they have no problems. They're not trying to fill, 20,000 people arenas and only throw 5,000 people out there like we do here in St. Petersburg. So they pack
right.
it up. The fans are loyal. The fans love the game. So are they trying to bring the American brand there because of the players that were taken now, or what's the end game here?
Think so. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that, the Korean series in Seoul, Korea, and, Otani and Yamamoto are the key players that are there. That's not a coincidence.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so there's a little bit of that, but yeah, no, it's a good question. I think ultimately, I mean, look, because when we talked about it, baseball's expanding. Now they're not going to expand into like there's not going to be a London team, there's not going to be a Korean team, but I I wouldn't be surprised, and I have no inside information on this. There's not like I wouldn't be surprised that their ultimate like end game here is to actually kind of almost acquire like the KBO, NPB, like those style and put it under like the Major League Baseball branch and truly make it global. Um, that's a logistical nightmare, and there's like a ton of stuff that can go into it. But like
Sounds like a terrible idea to me.
yeah, and it might, and again, I could be completely wrong. That might not be their ultimate end game. I do know that the reason why they're going to London is because like they really are trying to grow the game, and like obviously cricket's huge over there. Um, but they're really trying to promote more international players in general just to play baseball. And like to create like a pipeline where, a lot of it like happened, what was it, like the RBI program or like inner city youth, like a lot of those within the United States, like they put a whole big like diversity and inclusion initiative to like, which is awesome. It got like like kids that really couldn't afford to like their families couldn't afford to pay for like equipment, pay for teams and all this stuff to like give them an opportunity to actually like play, travel, showcase like their skills and actually get on like travel teams radar, depending on the age, getting on high school teams radar, depending on the skill, getting on major league teams radar.
Yeah, and I
Um,
get that here. I get that here in the US, but I don't know how familiar you are with how things work in, say, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, because, 30 years ago, um, the way teams discover people down there would be through their, I forgot what they call them, but kind of these people that would find the players, right? But by virtue of being the finder, they would control either negotiations in the contract. Now, agent fees and things like that were not regulated anywhere else. So you had a lot of people taking advantage of that situation. It turned into where now is full-blown academies in place, where the academy itself provides an opportunity for players to come and develop, to be found, but all it is a mill. They're just running players there, finding the good ones, dumping the bad ones, not really caring about the ones that don't have the skill, only about the ones that do and can potentially create a return for their investment.
right.
And the academies make a lot of money from this because they'll have the rights that they sign. In Japan, some of the teams will own the rights to player and they'll sell them to the US. The US team will pay a bunch of money to the team, but you're talking about an organization, not an academy of ex high school players, high school coaches or whatever who are all trying to get paid. So the initiative, necessarily, it could potentially open up the doors for more of that in other
Right.
countries, in the UK, in Japan, because in Japan they have a system. But if now you're introducing a new path to American baseball, there could be an opportunity for other companies, corporations, wherever to exploit that path here and bypass the way that they do things there. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. It definitely
Yeah.
happened in the Caribbean in the last 30 years. So the initiative of reaching out to countries in the Caribbean and all that, where baseball is life for a lot of people growing up, has kind of turned that into an ugly thing. So I'm just hoping that doesn't happen elsewhere with Major League
Yeah.
reaching out like that.
No, I agree with that for sure. I also, and I don't know, this could be another motivational thing, but like the World Baseball Classic was like the most success last year. It was like the most successful like international showcase that like I think ever. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, streaming is a big thing. Like the video availability is a big thing. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I mean, bottom line is they're just trying to grow the game globally and to have like potentially like English-born players, like people, Italian-born players, Israeli-born players, like like to kind of just expand that. Even like Australia too. I mean, that's where like the Rays or the Phillies actually signed Curtis Mead. They found him in Australia, then traded him to the Rays, and now he's one of the Rays' top prospects. And make a case maybe he should get traded and get it for a pitcher, but but yeah, it's you get what I'm saying, like trying to create like a better pipeline where it's not, and also like the more you can do that, the more jobs you're creating too, which and it's not probably like high up on their lists, but like we know we're expanding, so more jobs are going to be created there. We know, so it's like it's growing the whole economy of baseball, not just Major League Baseball's bottom line. It's everything, right? So it's interesting. I mean, I think it's cool. Like I think like the Field of Dreams stuff is really cool. Like the Little League World Series games stuff is pretty cool. Like The more unique things you can do, I think the better, as long as it's not like stupid. Like you don't necessarily need to play on a cruise ship that's moving. Like
So is the NBA losing traction now? Because when Yao Ming came, and we have this whole overseas deal with the NBA too. I don't see that anymore. The outreach. Are they losing traction now with how much baseball is becoming, more watched and all that, and the NBA is maybe regressing a little bit and losing fans?
probably a little bit to an extent, but I mean, the pipeline for the NBA is still pretty well established with like the European leagues. Like, they're really successful there. I mean, like, I know like for a fact we had conversations with sports books about like would we potentially want to help them gather some of the data in the European basketball leagues. Wasn't as lucrative as it wasn't necessarily worth it for our company to do it at this point, but there is some merit there. I mean, so I don't know, it's I don't know enough about the landscape of how many international guys are signing in basketball now compared, like I know there was like a big run for a while. But I also think like the truth is baseball has been behind really all the major sports in terms of trying to like grow globally besides just organically because players are from there.
Right.
And like their social media efforts were like non-existent up until like 4 or 5 years ago. So they're doing what they can to not only reach the younger demographic, but also the demographic that never had access to watching like some of these games before, and just like getting people to watch like a baseball game. Like a lot of cricket fans that I've talked to are just like, oh, it's actually pretty cool to see like a baseball game like in structure. We just don't, I don't, we don't pay for MLB TV. You know what
You
I'm
know how
saying?
to play cricket?
Not really. I think cricket's the one sport that I've watched. I don't want to say like full games, but I've watched at least a couple of hours of cricket, and I really have no idea what the rules are. Like I know I have like the general concept, but like I don't think I understand those rules. It's like which sucks. I hate to admit that because I'm a big sports guy.
Yeah, we should
Uh,
learn cricket, and we should get a team, and then we can try and play the folks from the wiffle ball, jumboy, and talking baseball
that'd be
people
fun.
whooped our ass at some cricket. It's a real sport. None of that wiffle ball shit. All right, let's go to your strike number one.
All right, my strike number one, and this is why I'm optimistic about the Eagles, and I never was jumping off the bandwagon, even though I hated them. Um, Howie Roseman's the best in the business, man. He really is. He does this every year. He people like people don't understand it. I don't understand why teams don't copy his model like he does. Um, but I mean, I'll just put it in perspective. Like this is like a perfect example of why Howie Roseman is the best in the world. And I lost it, so I got to pull it up for a second. But
Homer.
no, I was talking about like the cat. He's the best in the league at manipulating the cap. But what does that actually mean? So he will sign guys to extensions, and the way the salary cap works is you can and you need ownership to buy into this, by the way. So it's not just all on Howie Roseman. Like luckily Jeffrey Lurie is one of the best owners in the league and willing to do this. But when he signs guys to extensions, instead of saying, "Hey, I'm just going to use simple numbers. I'm signing you to a 4 year, $10 million extension, so it's a $40 million contract. I'm going to send you 4 years, 40 million, $10 million a year, but I'm going to give 20 million to you as a signing bonus." And when you do that, you can take, I think it's for the next 5 years, you can take a portion of those cap hits off of the next 5 years of the cap. So I can take 2 million off this year, 2 million off next year. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can front load it. And now instead of your cap hit being $10 million a year, I can manipulate it to maybe as low as like $1 million this year and like 9 million next. You get what I'm saying? Like you can,
Mhm.
and you can keep doing that. And on goes the cycle over and over and over again. So to put that in perspective, okay, the 2024 cap hits for this is true for Daniel Jones, quarterback for the Giants, $47.1 million hard hit on the cap this year.
Damn.
Dak Prescott, and this is probably the reason why the Cowboys haven't been able to do much yet. $59.4 million. Hard hit on the cap, all counting this year. Deshaun Watson, which is this is the $63.9 million. Hard hit on the cap this year. The NFL salary cap's like 240, 230. I forget it went up a lot this year.
Yeah.
But like now listen to what the Eagles are doing for this season. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson, Saquon Barkley. All of them combined, $52.2 million on the cap this year. All of those players combined. He's the best in the business. And there's a reason why teams like the Eagles are consistently in a position to win, because he is the best in the world at manipulating the cap like that. And I have no idea why Jerry Jones hasn't re-signed Dak Prescott to this monster deal and lowered that cap hit to just like even 20 million. That would help cut it in half.
Right.
Like, I have no idea why the Giants aren't doing that. Well, because they're regretting the contract extension. They don't want to extend him any further. And like the Deshaun Watson thing is just an absolute joke. Like, I can't believe like that's going to go down as one of the worst contracts ever, probably. But like, you see what I'm getting at? As Howie is so good at keeping our young guys, like our guy that we develop, and keep like there's a reason. Like, I mean, Lane Johnson's been here forever. Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce, like, but like, listen to what he's done this offseason. This is already this offseason. Sign Landon Dickerson to a 4-year contract extension, lowering his cap hit this year. So he saved money this year by giving an all-pro left guard a contract extension. Signed Brandon Graham to a 1-year deal. There's no salary saving there. That's just like one more go around for Brandon Graham and he'll retire. Signed Jake Elliott to a 4-year contract extension, tying him for the second. Him and Justin Tucker are the two highest contract. I think it's the same exact number. Two highest contracts in the history for kickers, but his cap hit this year is 2.5 million. Like it's awesome. Re-signed the long snapper, re-signed the punter, so all those guys are staying here. And now in free agency, signed Saquon Barkley to a 3-year deal, signed CJ Gardner-Johnson to a 3-year deal, bringing him back, which is such an underrated. He never should have left in the first place. Signed Bryce Huff to it's a little convoluted, but it's essentially a 3-year deal. Signed Zach Bond, Devin White, 2 linebackers who are, I mean, Devin White is a former All-Pro for Tampa. Signed Devontae Parker, signed Matt Hennessy, who's going to be a kind of like a swing offensive lineman that will help a depth guy that we all need. And that's just the first wave of free agency. And the Eagles still have, I don't know the exact number, and I think they've got it, according to Over the Cap, as of 2 days ago, the Eagles had the 5th most cap space out of everyone in the league this year. And that's on top of what they've already done so far. Now, I don't think they've fully calculated everything, because I don't know if all the official cap hit numbers have come out. But like, that's absurd. Okay. And that's why, and you know, he doesn't always draft perfectly well. He's gotten a lot better at it, and he learns from his mistakes. But like, when you can manipulate the cap like that and sign all these guys year after year, they do this every year. This isn't like new.
Right.
It's crazy. And the fact that every team doesn't at least utilize that model of extending guys, putting it out over the course of a longer term of the cap, and like, but guaranteeing the money like right away. So like, if you do happen to move on from a guy, you're not getting crushed with dead money, and you're not getting crushed with like, oh, we want to cut a guy. We still owe you $20 million or whatever. I mean, that's why Bradbury's still on the team, because if we cut him, it's going to cost us like 16 million off the cap.
Right.
I still think he might end up doing it. but like, I guess, so what I'm trying to get at is it's unbelievable what Howie Roseman is doing, and like what he continues to do. And like, I don't really understand, like, and that didn't even mention the Kenny Pickett thing, which I don't love the trade so much, but Kenny Pickett's only hitting like $2.5 million on the cap this year, which for a backup quarterback with some developmental traits, whether or not you think he's any good or not is, you know, that's a different conversation. But like, you're not going to get, like I said, Marcus Mariota signed for $8 million, Jacoby Brissett $9 million, Sam Darnold $10 million. Like, that's what the backup quarterback market is. Jimmy Garoppolo signed for like 2 years, $13 million, something like that. Right. Like, it's like, they invest. Why? And this is the first year where Jalen Hurts' cap number is real. Like it's not, he's not on his rookie deal anymore. And I just named off an all pro team that's making less money than half those teams, half those players that just one quarterback is making.
Yeah. Who knew trash could be so expensive, huh? I got two things for you.
Yep.
So number one, you know this stuff. I know this stuff. The industry knows. I think he was executive of the year last year, right? So, but do the fans care? Do they care? Because how many rings does he have, right?
I mean, the Eagles fans care. I mean, he got us one ring.
Yeah, but how long are they going to live on that? Right now, he may be great, but give me three more years of the Eagles not making the Super Bowl. Are the fans going to give a damn about how great he is?
We'll see. I mean, I think the coach will go first.
Because you got Beach over there on the, in Kansas, Kansas City or Kansas, wherever the hell the Chiefs are, right? I think they're moving. They're talking about moving. I don't know. They're moving to Missouri or from Missouri. Who knows what they're going to do? But you got Beach over there with 3 Super Bowls in the last however many years.
Yep.
So that brings me to my number 2 point. Like, throw Jerry Jones away. That dude is going to do whatever he wants. But why don't more teams try and get these two powerhouses types of minds, or, the idea of those two ways to think together, right?
Well, a lot of them do in terms of like the Eagles. I mean, Joe Douglas was Howie Roseman's like assistant. He's now the GM of the Jets. Barry, the GM of the Browns now,
Yeah,
which is why
Beach was with the Eagles for like 10
yeah,
years or something.
yeah,
So
he was with us for a while too. So yeah, no, it's teams do that. But you know what the biggest thing, and I think it just comes down to ownership because, like I said, in order to do that, you have to be willing, like, you got to be willing to sign like a $20 million check to give to Saquon Barkley right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like, in order to do that, and the Eagles have been willing to do that. Howie has a very good relationship with Lori, and ownership has bought into. I can pay this up front, and we can still save us some money on the cap. Um, so I think a lot of it. The one thing I've learned working for teams is you can do whatever you want, you can do everything perfectly, you can have a perfect trade in place, you can work your ass off, and you can do everything. But if the ownership says no and he's not going to sign off on it, the deal's going to fall through. It's just not going to happen. The guy who pays the checks has to say yes. And a lot of times people will get fired and it's not their fault. Like it's not. I guess what I'm trying to say is like we have no idea. There's just when I was around a couple of teams for a while, there was a big Reds trade that was being discussed that I remember. I was like, wow, this is pretty good. This is a big names that they were talking about. The owners were never going to sign off on it. Now that they were also waiting for the it was a weird transition period, so it was like a whole big spending freeze. But like I get, but my point is what I'm trying to say is like GMs will get fired and will take the fall. Front office people will move around. But a lot of the times it's not because they're unable to do things. It's because the people that have the authority to say yes or no might say no because they're not willing to write that big of a check. No,
I
I have
think
no idea.
I
That's
think
my
the
piece.
Steelers need to give me a call. I can go up there. Me and Khan will get the Roonies on our side, and we can become um, uh, a dynasty right away.
And I'll
Start
say
playing
this, I think
together.
the Steelers have had one of the best off seasons in the league so far, but I think that's kind of your strike too. I want to get your take on it.
All right, well, let's do that. Let's go to strike 2. Booyah, where am I? The Steelers trades. So, I'm a Steelers fan, right? I've been a Steelers fan since 1992. Why that year? Because that's when I learned American football. But
Okay.
I was very confused last week about what was going on. And I was like, I was on a cruise and I get some notifications of what's happening with these quarterback moves. And it wasn't until I saw this tweet or something about, or TikTok of all things, about what a diva Kenny Pickett has been, and that's the kind of crap that we don't want in our locker room. You know, we got rid of AB, we got rid of Bell, we got rid of Fortnite dude, Schuster. Like, we don't want divas in the locker room. We don't want anybody who is puts themselves above the team. So I'm glad to see Pickett go. I wanted to give Pickett another year. I thought the kid had some potential. Your problem now. But when I saw, you know, somebody told me, hey, Russell Wilson might go to Pittsburgh. I was like, bring it on. What the hell? You know, like, I think that, although, let's be honest, him and Justin Fields both have some of the highest, like, I don't know what they call it, throwaway plays or whatever, negative plays in the league last year, like 130, 140. But I think that they do have a better support cast in Pittsburgh than they did in Denver, and you know, Chicago was coming along, but I just don't think he was ready for that. But I think that it was a good move for the Steelers to do what they did. They dumped some money. They got, you know, Fields for cheap. So that's not a bad deal to have him as quarterback. Pickett obviously did not want any part of that. We got rid of, you know, we lost our backup to, I forgot where he's gonna go now.
Mitch
Let me see.
Trubisky? Is that what you're talking about?
No, forget him. He wasn't even gonna be part of the.
Oh, you're talking about Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Rudolph is gone, and Rudolph commanded what, $8 or $10 million. So we weren't gonna be able to pay him. So financially, it was a good decision. I think that we bring some experience to the backfield with the two quarterbacks more than we were gonna go into the season with. So I'm excited for what's going to come down this year. Listen, Pittsburgh had 9 wins last year, right? So I thought they had a chance. Nobody thought they had a chance in the playoffs. I thought if it wasn't for a couple of dumb plays and those turnovers, we could have made it a game in the wild card. But
And if Watt wasn't.
yeah. But I don't know. I'm excited to see Russell Wilson suit up, and we'll see what Tomlin does this year. I think that we're going to be a little bit more consistent back there, and maybe hopefully make better decisions. And if you know, 3 or 4 better decisions a game can prolong 1 or 2 series, that's a 6-minute swing. And if we keep the other team off the field, we have a chance. So that's what I think I have to look forward to this year.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be honest. I think I even asked you the question on the last episode of the podcast. Who would you rather have, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson? And I guess the answer is both. Fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, put it in perspective, especially because you signed Russell Wilson for like basically nothing because the Denver's paying his salary. I mean, the Steelers got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for like $5 million total, and anywhere between the 6th and the 4th round pick, depending on how much Justin Fields plays. Like, that's highway robbery when guys like Marcus Mariota, like, I mean, how many the guys I just talked about, like, what is the backup quarterback market?
Yeah, to hold a clipboard.
You signed 2 guys who, right, and you signed 2 guys who like could potentially start. And yeah, I'll get into the Justin Fields trade in a minute because that's my strike too. But like, signing Russell Wilson such a no-brainer in my opinion, because all the Steelers needed to have someone that not lose them games and just be like a quote unquote game manager, and utilize that defense and just make the throws that you have to, and you would have won a lot more games last year. Like, you were in a ton of games last year. So I don't know. It's such a the other move that I love too is you signed Patrick Queen, and you gave him a lot of money, which I wanted the Eagles to sign Patrick Queen, the linebacker. But what I love about that too is Patrick Queen is one of the best linebackers in the league, but you stole him from the Ravens too, so you made your direct rival worse. And now you put him in the. I mean, the Steelers' defense should only be better, honestly, which is a scary thought with Patrick Queen back there. And now you've got a real quarterback room where look, Russell Wilson is 35 years old and is definitely past his prime. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But for like $2 million, like you like again, I keep bringing it up, but like, would you rather Marcus Mariota for 8 or Russell Wilson for 2? And Russell Wilson's won Super Bowls. Like, yeah, it's weird. He's clearly a weird dude, and like I hope Tomlin says like stop saying weird shit and like just focus. But he's been humbled, I think, and like Russell Wilson should be more motivated than anyone for 2 reasons. One, he looks like an idiot after how he had like the whole Broncos situation. Sean Payton essentially was just like, I would rather cut you and tank the entire year to potentially get a quarterback in the future than to keep playing because like you just can't run my offense the way I want you to run it because you're not Drew Brees. That's a whole different conversation. And then and oh by the way, we just traded for a guy who Justin Fields where like if I'm not on my shit, he's gonna take my job. And Justin Fields should be as motivated as anybody to prove like I got the worst situation in Chicago and you only traded me for like a 6th or a 4th round pick. Like I'm gonna make you regret that for the rest of your life. Like, and I hope he's wired like that. I would be wired like that.
Yeah.
So like
Luckily, I was looking because the Steelers don't play the Bears this year, so we'll see. Maybe next year.
but yeah, I mean, and I think this will be a good trade. I'm gonna trickle right into my strike two if you're cool with
Strike two.
that.
There we go.
My strike two is I don't understand the Bears' motivation to get to trade Justin Fields for what they did at this juncture in time. If your best offer, which again, this goes back to I really don't understand what teams look at when they're evaluating quarterbacks. I am by no means saying that Justin Fields is great, good, elite, or like terrible. I don't know what Justin Fields is. He's shown flashes that, okay, there's a lot of real upside here. His teammates fucking love him. And like to me, that says a lot about what I mean, all the entire Bears players were like, Justin Fields is our guy. Justin Fields is our guy. Like, like we want him to be the quarterback. Like again, players don't run the show and like you can't make every decision based on like what they're saying. But like that should tell you the people that work with him day to day, like know that he's got something, there's something there, right? He was put in a terrible position to succeed. The Bears were one of the least talented teams in the league the last couple of years. Terrible offensive line. And up until they brought in DJ Moore last year, didn't even have a receiver that was worthy of being in the top 50 conversation. So like you're just not setting up a guy to succeed at all in that scenario. And now he's going to go sit because Russell should be the starter and like he should win it, but like he's gonna compete with him. And just to learn behind Russell Wilson, a guy that's like a true mentor. I mean, like who was the backup last year? Tyson Bagent for that. Like, do people even know who that is? Like, I didn't know who that was, and I watch a lot of football. I had no idea who that was, and I was like, oh yeah, that's good. Now, how was that helping Justin Fields? So like I don't know. I think the Bears screwed that up so monumentally. It's bizarre. Caleb Williams happened to fall into their lap. Good for
Well,
them.
don't you think that's the motivation? You have all this noise about Caleb this, Caleb that, the best in 100 years, blah blah blah.
Sure, but like my question is, with all the there's so many teams that need a quarterback still, even after all this like QB carousel, which will be my strike three. Spoiler alert. But there's still so many teams that need a quarterback, and the Bears are going to take a quarterback. The Washington's going to take a quarterback, so that's 2 teams right there for sure. But then I think like I mentioned, I would be pretty surprised if McCarthy is not taken pretty early. I'd be pretty surprised if Drake May is not taken pretty early. Like I think there's a realistic chance we see and Penix too, 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I think that's realistic. So what happens when all these teams and there's more than 5 teams that still need a quarterback? Trust me. So what happens when the draft comes? There's no one available left in free agency. There's no legitimate starting like slam dunk quarterback prospects left. They're all kind of like flyers. So what happens if a team like the Vikings can't move up and get a quarterback, or the Patriots decide they don't want to? They only like 2 quarterbacks and they're both not there, so they decide to trade down or like take an offensive lineman or Marvin Harrison, whatever it is. Like you get what I'm saying. Like if right now best offer on the table, regardless if that's Justin Fields saying like, "Hey, I want to go to Pittsburgh. Like, please trade me there." Like, which sounds like they did that to just be nice. Fuck that, man. This is a business. Like, and like maybe I'm an asshole for saying that, but like, if I'm trading you, like I'll trade you, but like I'm not trading you for nothing. And to me, trading a guy like there's a realistic chance Justin Fields is a top 15 quarterback in the league at some point in the NFL. I mean, some people were calling him that going into last year.
Right.
Um, you don't trade those guys for a fourth round, a sixth to a fourth round pick. And I find it hard to believe that there's not a single team that would have offered them something better if during the draft, after the draft, or in training camp, and someone gets hurt. Like, what happens if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again? Like, you're telling me that I know they signed Tyrod Taylor, but they don't have a long term quarterback on their roster for like 3 years from now. Who's the starter for the Jets? No one has an answer for that. Like, and that's just one example of like it happens every year. Quarterbacks are going to get hurt, and we
But
saw more quarterback
yeah, but I
injuries than
mean,
ever.
what do they get out of keeping him if they're going to draft Caleb? Nothing.
I mean, but it's competition. Like knowing like, hey, we probably are going to trade you if the right thing comes along, but like, the Bears are still going to need a backup quarterback. You know, unless Tyson Bagent's their guy who
Yeah.
they really like. But like most teams, like I mean, what do the Eagles need Kenny Pickett for? They don't. But for $3 million, why not? And like,
Well,
and
his
that
small
was
hands
a
are better to hold the clipboard. So
true. But you get what I'm saying? I just feel like I don't understand the motivation from the Bears to trade him, besides the fact just to get it over with. And it just seemed like they just didn't want to deal anymore. And maybe it became a distraction, and maybe like there might have been a controversy if they drafted Caleb and then Justin Fields looked legitimately better, but they were still going to play Caleb anyway. Like, but like to me, that's all good things to create value.
right.
Whereas like if you're just going to sell him for a sixth or fourth round pick, why do that now? Be like, okay, if that's my best offer, then I'll wait and sit on it, because it's not going to get worse.
Right.
Like,
I agree. I
so
think you and I, there's two schools of thought, and you and I are on the same page. I'm glad, I feel like we robbed Chicago blind, so I'm good with that. But we were talking about my tickets to opening day at the Rays, and I can't use them. So I'm like, well, I can sell them or I can give them away. Those are my two options, right? So you're like, oh, why don't you sell them and get some money? I was like, well, why? It's just a hassle. Like, I'll just give them away, and it probably means it'll probably do more for me to give them away and help somebody out who maybe either owes me a favor or whatever, and create that that advantage for giving somebody my tickets than it would to sell it for very, very cheap, like Chicago sold him for very, very cheap and getting nothing in return. So I get it. If I was in Chicago, I would have kept him too. I would have created that situation where maybe they can make each other better. I don't know.
I think that's
Caleb
my biggest
coming in,
problem.
he knows he's number one. He knows, Pickett is like the stepchild that didn't even want to be there, so nobody cares. Um, I don't know. I mean, not Pickett, but now that Chicago's got the clear path for Caleb, I don't know. Maybe they're not going to get the best out of Caleb, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my bottom line. There was no need. They didn't have to trade Justin Fields right now.
Yeah,
They didn't have to. Was it the nice thing to do for him? Sure, but like, I don't know, I'm trying to win a Super Bowl here,
right.
and and again, I find it very hard to. Personally, I think I told you, like, I think the Falcons, like, I mean, I know they signed Kirk, but like, why wouldn't the Vikings offer a second round pick? Well, I don't know if they have a second round pick now after the trade that they did, but like, why wouldn't any team like that offer like a third round pick? Like for the Patriots couldn't use him for a third round pick. I mean, like Mac Jones went for a fourth. Like, like I don't know. It's weird to me. I think the Bears had a really good offseason, and mostly what they've done is really good, and they're definitely all in on Caleb Williams, but it just kind of felt like a move that you could have done a lot better for your franchise if you waited it out a little bit. And I also questioned the league of like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what's your evaluation process? Like teams are willing to spend like a first round pick on like potentially Michael Penix, but you're not going to spend a third round pick on Justin Fields. Like
Right.
why? Like I know there's like some money motivation there, but like again, Justin Fields isn't making any money yet. So like
Yeah.
the QB evaluations, I will never fully understand, and I don't know. I
Nobody
think
ever will.
there's so much. There's a reason why there's so much turnover in the NFL year after year. I'll leave it at that.
All right, we're gonna switch gears. So right now that Major League Baseball is starting, that means that college baseball is getting close to the end. Um, Not too close, right? We're still a month or two away before we crown an NCAA champion. But I want to talk on my strike three about the NCAA Men's College World Series and the NCAA Women's College World Series. So two totally, the format for getting to the big show kind of the same. You have your regionals, you have obviously you have your conference championships, then you have your regionals and super regionals to determine, the teams that make it to the show. The event, have you ever been to a men's college world series in Omaha?
No, it's like one of my top bucket list things. I would
All right.
love to.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's pretty cool because you get to watch the top teams battle it out in one field, and for the round robin, you don't have a lot of fans going there, but once they make it and you make it that weekend series, you have a lot of support for your home team, for all the teams out there. It's pretty cool to watch. Now, the thing with college baseball is not like, it's not like Major League where you have your Dodgers, have all these contracts for guys that are going to keep for 2, 3 years and they rotate the better players and all that. College is different. When OU made it there 2 years ago, they had a lot of good pitchers. And then right after their season was over, those pitchers are gone. So now 2023 was a rebuilding year for OU. 2024, now we got those, some good pitchers again. We got some good bats and they're ranked again. So year after year, NCAA men's championship, College World Series is a tale of who was able to develop talent right away because you don't have all this time with all this good talent. When they become good, they're gone. So you have to develop it right away. I think the College World Series was really a really neat event. I had a lot of fun. I mean, besides the fact that that stadium in Omaha has some of the best hot dogs
Heard that.
anywhere in any other stadium. I don't know if I told you about that, but
You told me, yeah.
um, that their hot dogs are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. Just the atmosphere of being there. You get into a game, and as soon as the game is over, you need to get out because there's a group of people waiting for the next game to get in and root for their team. And then just that atmosphere is pretty cool. Now,
That's pretty.
the Women's World Series been dominated by OU, and of course, is played in Oklahoma City. So Hall of Fame Stadium is host to the championship every year, and as you can imagine, I mean, it's packed with Oklahoma fans. That that situation is pretty cool too. Oklahoma keeps dominating. They seem to reload every year, with new players and especially pitching and hitting. I mean, they had one of the a historic home run, 2 years ago with how many home runs they hit, and last year too. So as a team, but they seem to be stacked year after year. Patty Gassol's doing a great job, but the atmosphere between the College World Series and the Women's College World Series is, I mean, it almost compares to me to a regular World Series, atmosphere. When you talk
Yeah.
about it, that's pretty cool. Now, granted, 2 years ago, when OU played Ole Miss, of course, I was there for OU. The stadium was packed for the final two games. They happened to take it in two, but it was 95% Ole Miss fans. The SEC in college baseball is a totally different animal than any other conference in the nation.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if OU and Texas are ready for what is about to hit them in the SEC in baseball. Like OU Texas football, it's one thing. They're going to be able to compete, hopefully, right? And then they'll feel they're used to the pressure and all that. But baseball, different animal. I don't think they know what's going to hit them when they come to the SEC for baseball. But I think that both the World Series for college are amazing atmospheres. If someone, like you said, that's one of your bucket list items, I
Yeah.
really suggest that you do it. You're gonna love it.
Oh yeah, no, it's just a pain in the ass to get there. It's in the middle of nowhere, but like
It
I,
really is. Luckily, I lived in Oklahoma, or did I? I don't even remember. No, I lived here, but I still have a house in Oklahoma. So I traveled to Oklahoma and I drove up there 7 hours. I actually drove back one day when OU had 2 days of not playing, and drove back up there for the rest of the series. So it is a pain in the ass. And there's not much there.
of
So
course,
when the World Series is in town, every hotel room is sold out. Prices are really ridiculous. I mean, it was one expensive experience. Maybe that's why I only ate hot dogs while I was there. And maybe that's why I fell in love with the hot dogs, because that's all I could afford. Hotels were expensive. I almost got a ticket on my way up there. I remember I was driving up there and on some back road, because that's all there is up there. And I got pulled over, and the guy's like, "Well, what are you doing in town?" I was like, "What do you think I'm doing in town? I'm here for the College World Series." So the cop understood that that's what everybody's in town for. He's like, "You know what? I'm gonna be nice, not give you a ticket. All these back roads, I understand they're, you go in a 3 mile span, your speed limit goes from 70 to 35 to 25 to 50. It's ridiculous." But
yeah, it's
yeah,
wild.
when you get up there to watch one, definitely don't go unless you're rooting for a team, right?
Yeah,
Because otherwise you're just throwing money away. But you got to have a reason to be up there. But yeah, I expect that it's going to be really expensive just to sleep, find a place to sleep. And here's the thing: Ole Miss fans packed the place, but guess what? They didn't pay for hotels. Most hotels were already sold out anyway. Because you had Notre Dame out there, you had not Florida because we beat them in the Super Regional, but you had big teams out there. And the way people do it, they'll book a hotel for the entire week, and even if they don't use it, they don't get to just cancel it and in most hotels, right, for the rest of their trip. So hotels are sold out. Ole Miss people drove after finals overnight, didn't sleep, and end up finding parking lots to sleep in. So they all slept in their cars. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Out of all
very
the Ole
college
Miss fans there, probably 75% of them slept in their car to be able to go watch their team. That's amazing to me.
perspective, man. No, I mean, I think I told you, college baseball is my favorite college sport. I
Yeah.
think, especially when you get to Omaha, like that caliber of play is closer to the pro level than any other sport, including football, in my opinion.
I got some appointments to run in Gainesville, so I gotta go talk to a few people that play for the Gators right now. So we should make a trip up there and catch a
let's
couple games.
let's do it because I actually haven't been to the Gators' new stadium since they renovated.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I played in a couple of like travel showcases on that field. Like I went to the Gators camp. Like I always wanted to play for the Gators, but unfortunately,
They
being
have
five
good hot
foot.
dogs too.
uh, but no, honestly, yeah, and I'd love to. And they've always got talent year after year. Um, so yeah, and obviously this year, Jack Kaggs, um, he's their college version of Otani, man. This kid
Yeah.
had legitimate 30, 40 home run power potential, and he's throwing 100 as a left, 100 miles an hour as a left-handed pitcher. Like it's pretty absurd. I would take him first overall.
And you know
Um,
why? He's a pretty good kid. Like, he's a pretty cool kid. He's not, I don't know, he doesn't have that Wander Franco effect that he thinks he's all that. And so he's a humble kid. He works hard. He was down here. I met him a couple months ago when he was at
Maybe you send
um
me a picture of it.
the polar bear charity event. So he's a pretty cool kid. I like him.
I'd love to meet him. Just
Not a client. I love for him to be a client, but
yeah, you should work on that. You
right.
should send
Yeah,
me.
let's go work on it together.
Yeah, I'll tag team that one. I think we can we could do something there. But yeah, no, it's I love college baseball. Like I really do. I was fortunate enough at Sports Info Solutions. One of my first jobs there was focusing on the amateur side of things, and I did a ton of Florida games. And this was back when like Pete Alonso was there,
Yeah.
um, and it was yeah. That was the one year I like Jonathan India. Like I was really considering going to Omaha, and I was of course they ended up winning that one. Remember their pitch? They always have good pitchers. Um, but yeah, no, I love it. I we should go to Omaha. Let me borrow your house and drive for 7 hours.
I'll go if OU makes it.
That's
So
fair.
we'll plan it out. All right, let's go to your strike number 3.
Final strike. This is just kind of I just don't remember this. I'm calling it the quarterback and running back carousel in the NFL. I mean, like, listen to all these players that changed teams this year. Start with the quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, Gardner Minshew, Tyrod Taylor, Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, Marcus Mariota, Mitch Trubisky, Drew Lock, Jimmy G, Jameis Winston, Mason Rudolph, Josh Dobbs, Russell Wilson, Tyler Huntley, uh, Joe Flacco. I knew there was one more. I couldn't find it. And there's still like Carson Wentz is still out there, Ryan Tannehill's still out there. Uh, Easton Stick, I believe, is still out there unless he re-signed with the Chargers. Don't remember. Um, so it's just like there's so many players that are so, and that we're not even at the draft point yet, and there's still probably some quarterbacks that might end up getting traded too. Just a ton of turnover there. But the running back market is crazy. I mean, we already talked about the Eagles signing Saquon Barkley, but Josh Jacobs now on the Packers, Swift I mentioned going to the Bears, Tony Pollard leaving the Cowboys going to Tennessee, Derrick Henry leaving Tennessee going to
Yeah.
Baltimore. Scary having Lamar Jackson speed and Derrick Henry's power in the same backfield.
Yeah, that's
But
not
good thing
fair.
you got Patrick Queen, so he'll handle it. Um, Austin Eckler switched teams. He's now on Washington, which I have no idea what the hell Washington's doing, but okay. Aaron Jones left Green Bay for Minnesota, which is kind of hilarious. Zach Moss now the starting running back for the Bengals. Devin Singletary now the starting running back for the Giants. Um, it, what I'm getting, Alexander Madison now with left Minnesota going for the Raiders. It's just crazy the amount of turnover. I just don't remember this happening. And like ever since fantasy football kind of glorified like the skill position players, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, I just feel like there hasn't been this much turnover with like premier guys. I mean, we're talking about like borderline like Hall of Famers here that have switched positions.
Right.
It's not switched positions, switched teams.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Like it's kind of exciting how people are saying how like it's weird to me how like teams aren't willing to spend money on running backs, but they're all finding alternative running backs in the free agent market and they're all
Yeah.
kind of getting paid to an extent. So I don't know, it's a little weird to me. Like I'm not really sure. Like I mean, I think like Derrick Henry leaving the Titans makes sense. They're really rebuilding and he's trying to win a Super Bowl. So like Barkley, same thing. He's trying to compete. Josh Jacobs just got a lot of money to leave to go sign with the Packers. But then I don't know why the Packers wanted to do that and not pay Aaron Jones, but
Well, who's
whatever.
driving this? Is it the teams or is it the players?
Well, I think this year, especially, I think it's more the players this year because last year, like Barkley didn't get paid, Jacobs didn't get paid, and they were like all played on the tag, and they were just like, we're not like we're taking a stand here. But also, I think it has to do with like this year's draft class really isn't that strong at running back. So I think teams that are normally are like, well, we can fill this need at, getting a running back in like second, third, fourth, hell, sometimes even as undrafted free agents. We've seen teams have success with running backs. But I think this year, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the first running back taken until like late in the second round, maybe even the third round. Like, and that's not really, it's not disrespected. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. There's just not like a clear cut, like no doubt workhorse number one guy. They're all kind of similar. Um, like I mean, I actually like Will Shipley the most in this draft. Kid from Clemson, but he's no doubt RB1. The kid from FSU, Trey Benson, is I think most people have him towards the top of their board. But like I like a guy like Frank Gore Jr. Like I like him personally, and like there's some people that have him going in like the fifth round or later. So like I think it's just a matter of there's no top elite guy in this class. So teams are filling their needs in free agency and a little bit more willing to spend when the replenishment, for whatever, for lack of a better word, isn't as strong as it usually is. Um, that's my And also there's just some guys like, Derek, like I said, the guys that just make sense to go try and get a ring, go on like a better team. If you're a bad team, it makes zero sense to have a good running back, like a high paid good running back veteran type guy. Just that makes zero sense there. So those deals make sense to me. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of shocking. Like it's a lot of turnover.
I think both sides need to, both sides are catching up to each other, where they understand the business aspect of these decisions, their future, all that. A wise man, the ultimate Jim Traber, always says that there's no room for loyalty in professional sports. A team should not be loyal to a player. A player should not be loyal to a team. It's a business, right?
It's very true.
I mean, I think that some of this stuff creates a more of a level playing field in some of these leagues, so you have a chance, right? Because being able to make moves when either players or teams are not loyal allows for some opportunity for you to either retool or make adjustments to your team to stay competitive, not just looking at the numbers, but stay competitive on the field with the numbers. So I think it's a good deal. I think ultimately it's going to help. Hopefully it creates more interest in some of the teams that, 20 years ago were just doormats, and now your team could be relevant in a year or two. It doesn't have to be such a deal that you have to wait a long time for luck to help you out. So I don't know.
Well,
We'll see.
especially if you have a quarterback, you can really rebuild in a year if you do it
Yeah.
correctly. But I didn't even mention Joe Mixon, who got traded from the Bengals to the Texans, and like that's an interesting spot to him now.
I didn't
CJ
even know
Stroud's
that.
gone.
Okay.
Yeah, Mixon's gone. So yeah, just a lot of it's interesting how like last year no one wanted to pay running backs, and like that was like the whole thing, and we're tagging these guys, and now this year you see all the running back turnover. So I don't know, just an interesting trend that really caught my eye this offseason in particular.
Good deal. Well, man, that's an awesome show. Awesome point. Thank you for not crying in front of us when we were talking about Jason Kelce, about Taylor Swift's boyfriend's brother. And I think we all agree he meant a lot to the team. He meant a lot to the league, had a great career. It was pretty cool to see him, working live and in color. Um, we'll see what it means for the NFC East now. This would be a cool year to pay attention to and see what differences you see in some of the numbers and what impact he had on the team and the league overall. I think we all wish him well, so that's pretty cool. Got
Yeah,
any last thoughts?
yeah. Just at the end of the day, I'm just so happy that everyone is treating Jason Kelce the way that really Philadelphia has treated him since day one. But I mean, I never, if you would have told me like pre-pandemic, pre-podcast, that everyone in the league would be like posting stuff about Jason Kelce and he'd be like the biggest thing on the planet. He'd have like a #1 documentary, which you still have to watch. I'm going to bother you until you actually watch it. But that's cool, man. And like, I'm happy. Like, obviously I'm sad that he's gone, but I'm happy for him that he was able to do it on his terms. Like I said, he left still at the top of performing at his best, and he went out on his terms. And I really do think if they would have beaten the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, he would have retired that year. So if nothing else, we got an extra year out of him. And even though it was one of the worst endings to ever see any season I can remember, um, I'm glad we at least got it, and we got that memory of being at his last game. So no, it's cool, man. And it's been weird. It's been weird, honestly, to see people like fawning over him as crazy as it is. Like I personally think he should run for president. uh, um, or at least at minimum the mayor of Philadelphia. He would win that in a landslide. But yeah, no, it's cool. So I'm happy he's doing it. And again, I kind of feel bad that Fletcher Cox kind of got lost in the shuffle here, but I think that just goes to show you that how good Fletcher Cox is. Jason Kelce who even says that Fletcher Cox was better than him in his prime, which he probably was. But just the longevity of Kelce was just so crazy. He's just such a genuine person, and they're the royal family of the NFL right now. So you'll still see him. They'll still do the podcast, and I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised that there's a realistic chance that he's going to be a prominent member of the Eagles coaching staff if that's what he wants to do. Like, if you know, if he wants to be a broadcaster, he'll be a broadcaster. If he wants to just continue to do a bunch of different things and ride out the podcast, which I'm sure he's going to do the podcast forever, or at least until Travis doesn't want to do it anymore. um, it'll be interesting. Whatever he does, I think he'll be successful. But maybe we'll see Jason Kelce as head coach this time next year for the Eagles. I wouldn't be upset about that.
Wow. Okay. That's some bodacious aspirations. Good deal. Well, thanks, man. Great show. To our listeners, please visit our sponsor, someblissnaturals.com. Help us make some money so that we can buy some proper equipment, maybe a ring light or something.
We finally moved. Okay. So I finally moved. Now just give me like a month or two to set up, and
We're
then
moving on up.
Exactly.
Good deal. No, I like your setup, but next we'll get this show rolling and get you in the right podcasting software soon, and it's going to be a great deal. Well, I want to thank our listeners. You can find us on our all of your podcast platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, on our YouTube channel, The Sport Fiction, or our website, www.thesportfiction.com. From myself, Jorge.
I'm Noah.
Have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
See ya.